stirring a witch's brew.
That's silly.
So today we're going to make a cauliflower soup. It's very hearty, very easy to make. I'm making it with the Instant Pot. You could still make it in a regular pot. It'll just take a little longer in stirring and all that kind of stuff. So it does call for 6 strips of bacon to be cooked on like the sauté mode first in the Instant Pot, which I actually made bacon for breakfast and just saved some. So that's already done. So since the bacon is already cooked, the next step is to sauté the onions, celery, garlic, and just whatever you want to put in there for spices. It doesn't really call for anything, but if you want to throw in a little rosemary or thyme or something like that, you could do that at this stage too. So I've already got the vegetables chopped. So basically it's a stalk of celery, an onion, and then a head of cauliflower that you need to chop up. So I've got that chopped up, that's ready to go. So I'm going to throw in the onions and the celery to sauté. So we got the onion, celery, a little bit of garlic in there. You just sauté them for about 4 minutes or so until they soften up a little bit. So the sautéing is done. I added just a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of Italian seasoning. Again, you don't have to, it doesn't call for it. I just added that in for a little bit of spice to it. So you're gonna take 3 cups of chicken broth. I've used about a cup out of here. These are 4-cup containers. So you're gonna pour that in. Make sure to give it a good shake first. There's usually a lot of good seasoning at the bottom. So you're gonna pour that in, kind of let it deglaze for a second, kind of scrape the bottom of the pan. I've got the non-stick pan, so it doesn't really do too much to stick to it. Okay, so now that the chicken broth is in there, we just need to put in cauliflower. Scrape that in a second. And also our bacon. Remember, always try bacon. Make sure it's still good. Still good. So it calls for 6 strips of bacon. I just put in whatever was left over from breakfast. It was probably more like about 4 strips of bacon. So you just throw it all in, and then we're gonna set the Instant Pot to just really a couple minutes is all it takes. So we set our Instant Pot to sealed, and we're gonna do a manual for 5 minutes. And then you're gonna do a 10-minute natural release, and then after that's done, we just add the cheese and the sour cream. And then you're done. So you chop up some vegetables, sauté for a second, throw it in for 5 minutes, 10-minute natural release, and then you just have to add sour cream and cheese to it. Comes out nice and like kind of thick and creamy without having a ton of like creamy stuff in there. And you could make it more like kind of a vegetarian, leave out the bacon. I've used kielbasa instead of bacon, so you can supplement different meats. And like I said, if you wanted it more like a vegetarian kind of thing, you could cut out the meat altogether. I don't know if sour cream is really allowed if vegetarians eat that. I don't know if there's a supplement for like the sour cream. I'm sure there is, but you could use something. And cheese, I know there's like fake cheeses out there that vegetarians or vegans eat. So you could still make this more like a vegetarian kind of dish by supplementing whatever into there. So while that's cooking, getting the other couple things ready, we're gonna need cheese. You can use cheese of your choice, a cheddar or whatever. I usually use the Fiesta blend. It's got like queso, cheddar, and that kind of stuff in it. I'm gonna try an Italian style blend, which has like the Parmesan, mozzarella, Asiago, that kind of stuff. And you need 3/4 cup of sour cream. These little, 8-ounce containers are pretty close to 3/4 cup, just to give you a tip. We're also gonna use our immersion blender. I don't know if I said that right, but whatever. That way we can just grind everything up in the pot. If you don't have one of these, buy one. That's tip number 1. If you don't have one though, you can use a food processor or a blender. You just got to transfer it from the Instant Pot to that blender. So that's why these come in handy. Now when you're using these, those edges are sharp, so be careful. Like I said, I've got the ceramic coated or non-stick pan, whatever you want to call it. So be careful while you're using that. You don't want to grind it into the bottom of the pot, or even just really kind of touch it, because the edges can be kind of sharp. Depending on which one you have, you might have one that might have more like a silicone thing around those edges there or something, who knows. So immersion blender is going to be a huge help for this recipe, but not required. The Instant Pot is done cooking it. So now we just need to put in our last two ingredients, which is le cheese and la sour cream. Okay, and then our last step is to use this puppy. Alright, so the last thing we do is use this. Again, be careful, these are sharp, so don't jam it into the sides, especially if you have the non-stick. So we're going to just give it a little bit of a stir, and you just kind of chew up that cauliflower. So when that is all done, you're all set to serve it. A big tip that makes this really good, which I noticed last time, I don't know why I thought of it, but I was just like, hey, let's just try and throw some of this in, is the world famous best croutons in the world, Texas Toast Caesar croutons. Really, you can use any crouton, but this is my favorite crouton. So when you put it into a bowl, drop in like maybe 5 or 6 of them. You don't need a ton. It just adds a lot of that flavor and gives you something kind of crunchy in the soup. Okay, so to finish it off, like I said, a couple more, or throw in a couple croutons. Top it with just a little bit more cheese. And if you want to make it look fancy, just put a little parsley on it. Voila! Le soupe de la cauliflower. If you can't tell, I speak French. And we will see you next time.